In Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, as well as his Politics, what is discussed there is a virtue theory. It's virtue-based ethics. That's essentially what that is. And I have a good amount of videos on this, so I don't really want to delve into discussion on virtue-based ethics here, but I'm trying to refer to mostly the politics, the political community. First of all, to briefly discuss virtue ethics for one person, is that you are to use your practical reasoning to use your practical reasoning to use certain virtues in what you do, and build up a certain disposition, kind of like a habit, more but a disposition, a purposeful disposition towards certain actions, because of your use in practical reason as well as virtues in the process, in pretty much everything that you're doing. And in doing this, in this build-up of this disposition, you can move towards a virtuous flourishing, or a virtuous eudaimonia, and that is essentially, it's like a very brief, not a great description on it. I have other videos where I describe this better, so please look at those. But essentially, that's one person. Most virtue ethics is going to talk about that on one person, telling how one person can do this, or how one person involved at a time can do this. But what is not discussed is, well, more often than I would like, is this kind of idea in a political community. What I would like to do is to do a section by section analysis of Aristotle's Politics, but I really do not have the time to do that, nor am I the best person to do that either. Aristotle is not the philosopher that I'm the best at. I'm better at 19th century and 20th century philosophers. That's kind of more my thing. That's more what I'm good at. I'm good at 19th century and continental philosophers. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. I just want to discuss here the political community with respect to this kind of virtue prescription, this set of things that you can do to lead a virtuous life. And this is not a set of duties or obligations. There's no categorical imperative here. It's just a set of things that you could do, that you could enact in your life, that could lead you to this, not a consequential-based happiness, but more a virtue-based, virtuous life, eudaimonia, flourishing. That's one person. But one thing that Aristotle does discuss, he discusses things like the political man and the regime and all that stuff in the politics. But what I'm concerned about is the political community with this virtue ethics kind of implemented as to have this political community. Every citizen partners as to move towards the common good, or the highest good for the whole community. That's what the goal is of each person together, kind of moving towards, with this kind of virtue ethics kind of prescription, moving towards a common good, or a highest good for the whole community, or the whole government. And what is often thought is that to have something as awesome as this happen, that you would have to have more governmental control. But think about that. Think about each person building up this disposition toward acting upon virtues with a practical reasoning. Each person working together in life, and just kind of moving towards a certain life where we are all moving towards the same common good of the community. Now, Kant has lots of stuff where he talks about the Zim and bottom, the highest good, and but he has a more of a deontological prescription. But think about this: like if the whole community is driven by this towards this good, towards this good thing, towards this common good or highest good. That I think the idea of a political community or is not, we don't think of it that way at all. And I don't think today that would be altogether possible because there are so many people who are not, for the common good because most people have this idea where it should be for for consequential means, or we're moving towards these consequential ends, and that's gonna interfere greatly with any kind of idea of this Aristotelian political community. So I guess I'm interested as to how this would happen. First of all, there's we would not many people live by virtue theory anyway. They don't that's not that's not very common. Most people have morals. They have a common sense morality, I think, but some of this common sense morality is often overlooked for consequential ends. That's kind of what I see. That's kind of what I see society as. That's how I see most people's moral codes as being common sense morality, deontological kind of. However, having consequential ends that they overlook these things for. And I don't think that being so far away from, I think that this kind of virtue theory fueled political community is so far from that. And I guess I'm curious. I want to think about this because I want to think about how could this possibly happen? Would it be more government, less government? And first of all, of course, not more government. More government makes people rebellious, and it makes people willing. Makes people disposed to defend themselves, defend their rights. Thus, do things that are for themselves, and it's going to make people defend their assets, defend themselves, and I don't think that more government is the way to go. Less government could have problems too, as to if we have less government involved, people might move towards might do things based on consequential ends because they are able to. So it's kind of just the idea is it's so far away from the way we are today. If you just watch the news on a daily basis, you will understand how far away we are from that. But I think that everybody would benefit from such a community. Everybody would. This would be a community that everybody would benefit from, because we're all moving towards the common good of everyone else. And I think that everyone would benefit from this. There's no way that it could possibly happen is because most people are preoccupied by consequential ends. So I'm curious as to what you think about this. Do you think that there could be something like this in the future? Or if so, how? This is a very interesting thing, and it's kind of, personally, I would kind of go about this by prescribing a sort of Werner Marx, Edmund Husserlian kind of virtue ethics, but while having a theory of being, having an ontology of Heidegger, of course, but using certain, things from Husserl, and his experience of the other, in the fifth meditation of the Cartesian meditations. That is what I would use, to explain the experience of the other. Somewhat, I'm kind of moving more away from that, but definitely Werner Marx and his towards a phenomenological ethics. But would be mostly that. I mean, I'm still kind of on the edge of it as to how much of Husserl I would use in such a thing. But yeah, it would definitely be, Marx, Husserlian to an extent, not Karl Marx or Werner Marx, with the ontology of being of Heidegger, of course. So I don't know. That would be the approach I would make. And I think if you want me to elaborate more on that, I can. But I think I have in other videos. But yeah, I'm curious as to what you think. Do you think that this is possible, and if so, how? I think it's a long shot, but I think it's something that we should be moving towards and trying for.